Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Eric Bird, here at StopStrugglingNow.com in no man's land, in the kids' room, but nonetheless, I've been MIA. It's been for a good reason. Building a global empire is not easy, and because of health conditions for family members, I could not make Wednesday night or Friday night live streams. So now we have a new era. It's here. And we're talking about holding companies today because we have to structure them whenever we're starting a new business that's going to deal with the big boys. And that means the wealth factors, the guys that control properties, intellectual properties, trademarks, things like this. You're moving into a different area. So therefore, you have to protect yourself and your company and your assets that's going to be within those companies. So we got a lot to talk about today. Regardless of the stock market, you still have to do business. As you guys know, we'll get into that shortly. But thank you so much for being here. No matter where you're watching from, just make sure you tell other people. And welcome to the SSN Nation Money Making Monday live stream. Stop struggling out gear. No fear, no excuses. Check. And please like, subscribe, and click the bell below so you get the latest updates. Now, let's get to All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you so much for being here once again. Please share the videos because you never know who's out here looking for information, especially the big boy information. Let's get into it, shall we? The holding companies that you're going to need for your business. Now, some of you would say, Eric, I'm trying to start on a shoestring, but if you're dealing with anything that's high level, what I mean by high level is, okay, real estate, well, you have a deed, you can always buy, sell, flip, do whatever you want to do. It's pretty straightforward. But when you start doing business where it might involve multiple different things that in this day and era, it could be simple things. You may not think it's intellectual property, but even if you have a computer that you're doing something on, that you create your business, could be interpreted as intellectual properties. Trademarks. Also, you have a name for your multi-gazillion dollar business. You don't want to infringe on somebody else's. So therefore, you can't just open up any old business name because you want to make sure that some big boy won't come after you because you used their name or parts of their name. Why even risk it at all? Just be in the clear because the big boys, they protect their trademarks. So therefore, something that you might be doing, like, for instance, putting together a book, putting together a program, you can copyright these things, you know. So that is now intellectual properties that your business can hold. So let me just put things very simple. You have an LLC in every place. It does not matter where it is, except it does. But you just went down to the Florida Sun Biz. You just went down to the Louisiana one. You just went down to Texas one. And you said, it's no big deal where I file my LLCs. It does not matter. All of a sudden, you have intellectual properties in your LLC. So guess what happens once you start making some noise? You get involved with the lawsuit with your LLC. So what if you have personal asset protection, limited liability? It's what your company is, ladies and gentlemen. Those little copyrights, those little trademarks, If you lose the lawsuit, guess who could potentially get those? Those have value. That's why you don't leave them in your corporation LLC that is doing the operations of a business. You want to limit your liability. More than that, don't want to give up those assets, do you? Come on now. We have a comment section down there. Are you guys tracking this yet? So that means you should be doing some other things. If you're going to have intellectual properties, you need those held in another LLC, corporation. So now if you do get sued, because you do know in America you live in the most litigious country in the world, and you lose, your LLC's not holding any assets. So therefore, you've already moved it over to a vault, which is another independent business that has nothing to do with this business that they sued. So you have created a separation. The assets are over there. You didn't sue this corporation. We don't have any assets. Okay. You can also dissolve. They can do a judgment, but you don't have assets that they can take. So even though I'm talking about a holding company, if I move my assets to another LLC, that means it's there and it's a separate business. It's not the same. Unless, of course, you start playing around and you start commingling and doing all kind of crazy stuff with one bank account. You don't want to do that. What you want is you could have two separate LLCs, for instance, but if they're doing business, then you better have intercompany agreements to make it look just like any other business. That's right. You guys are going to have to replay this. All right. So once you have those intercompany agreements, then you act like my favorite thing that I have to tell you guys is, what is your options if they're holding the IP and they're holding trademarks and things of this nature, and your business is actually doing business based on those trademarks and copyrights and all that? What should you do? You have an intercompany agreement where you are licensing it from them. Why do I like licensing? Because that means the IP still stays there. That also means I get the rights to use it. I don't own it, though. This corporation doesn't own it. I get the rights to use it, so I have to pay them a licensing fee. So it's very simple. You just go to Google and say, hey, let me see what the industry IRS says is normal business, because you can't license something for $5. Let's get real. You could, but if you start making money, you're going to get audited. And then you're really going to be in problematic situations, because then they're going to go, oh, you were self-dealing because you own both of these things. So of course you're going to give your own self a $5 a month deal, when in fact you should have been paying them 15 to 20%. Potentially that would be one deal. So in essence, I'm talking about holding companies here tonight, right? Okay. EV Place in the house. Another investor's here. A different types of way. A real estate investor, stock market investor. And he has also met, the number one thing by December 31st, 2026. You need offshore bank account. You need offshore real estate or business. You need a 775 credit score before the next 3 to 4 months. Why? So you can get that 0% interest for the infamous 36-month credit card that's got to come out, I'm pretty sure. But I want you prepared, because right now you can get 0% for 21 months, 0% for 24 months. They have some as low as 0% for 6, but you don't want that. That's why you want 775. They're going to be looking for those with great credit after all these defaults start happening. The cost of living is rising. The cost of the stock market is rising. It keeps going up, ladies and gentlemen. That's why you should be investing in the stock market as well. But EV Place, thank you so much for being in the house, and I humbly appreciate the icon next to his name. If you want to be a member of the channel and support the campaign, please subscribe. And he brings his tagline. It says, "Good evening, SSN. I hope you are all doing well. You know I'm doing well. I know you're doing well. We're embarking on a big dog adventure. It's going to be here. I'm coming out of retirement. I'm just warning all the guys. All you haters." No, I'm not talking about guys right here. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't really care about you haters that's here. I know we got love too. But all I'm saying is, in the overall scheme of things, there's a level of hating. Levels of hating look something like this. When Elon Musk rolls down to the government offices and steals your social security ID and information on your friends, family, and relatives, so they can use that information against you maybe next year, maybe 5 years from now. They get your bank account information so they can freeze your bank accounts and take your money. That was the type of haters I'm talking about. You created a business and they say, "Oh, we're just going to make up some lawsuits." You see what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen? So when I talk about these holding companies, these lawsuits, bulletproof your assets. Because let me ask you something very simple as this. If you have assets and somebody comes to you and you have a company that has assets and you have a company that doesn't, and the person sues you based on the company that doesn't, you're not going to be fretting too much because you're like, okay, I still got all my stuff. I still get to make money. Or I can shut this business down if need be. I can do whatever I want, but I can sit here and fight. I don't have to worry about losing my assets on all fronts, personal as well as business. So that's why you have to have intercompany agreements. And I talked about holding companies, but notice I told you 2 LLCs and I didn't mention holding companies because another company can hold your assets as well. You don't have to call it a holding company, but you can call it a corporation. You can call it an LLC. But you better have something that has limited liability protection points of some sort just by forming it. Now, what do we want to do next? We don't want to just have it in a place where you go, "Oh, I'm just going to be sole proprietor." Big mistake. Or I'm going to be sole member. Huge mistake. Because once you say you're the sole member, guess what happens in a lawsuit scenario? That means you're going to be personally responsible by some of the best lawyers in the country because you're controlling it. And if you have assets there, you're going to start sweating because you're going to be like, if they take my assets, which I'm referring to intellectual property, trademarks, and things of this nature, you can't do business. Or you can do business, but you're going to have to form all over again under different names, start it all over, get trademarks. And some people aren't lucky enough to get trademarks that are in 9 months, 12 months sometimes. You really want to pay attorneys when you don't have to? USPTO, I believe, is the website. You can go check trademarks. In fact, you can just Google, AI, ladies and gentlemen, and ask them, what do you think about trademarking this name? It'll come back and say, "Oh, no, don't do this. Too high risk." Apple, Netflix, Amazon, hey, they have a business that has similar names. Similar is bad news because they will defend it, especially when you are making it. If initially you're nobody, no big deal. But soon as you're in their same class, and what do I mean by class? Trademark class. There's numbers. If I want to be in a certain trademark class, and if those guys are in the same class and I'm using part of their name, they're more than likely going to sit over a cease and desist. And more than likely, after you don't do something promptly, and it could be 48 hours, it could be 24 hours, it could be 2 weeks, but it determines maybe somebody's got a hair up their behind. All of a sudden, you got something at your desk that says there's a lawsuit. Now you got to, you know how much it costs for lawyers, ladies and gentlemen? Are you guys familiar with this? And don't find yourself in a federal situation because every lawyer is going to sit there and look at you like you're crazy, even though you can say, "It didn't happen, no way, no how." And they're going to look at you and say, "It's a federal case. Do you got $50,000, $60,000 retainer for me right now? Otherwise, sorry." That's how it works. Court You better be rich. Therefore, you should start off on the cheap end to begin with. Make sure you're free and clear if you're going to do anything. So, LLC first. Second, I should say. But let's get to the bottom line. This is a holding situation tonight, right? It's very, very simple. So, let me ask you guys something. If you don't know who the owner of the company is, how are you going to even serve them? You can serve the company. The company is not a person, right? So therefore, you can serve the company anything you want. But in the litigious United States of America, you need to put a stop on what they can do. So what do? The thing I just mentioned, 2 LLCs, one's holding the IP, that's a simple one. But again, you don't want to put yourself in that position unless you do certain things, and I'm about to talk to you about it right now. Because right now I'm putting together the empire. And the empire I'm putting together, I can tell you about it because you guys will never know about it. Because we're doing holding companies in states where you don't have to put down who the owner, manager, member, you don't have to put down any member. You can just leave it blank. So now when somebody comes up there and looks on the paperwork, it says, hey, there's no name here. Wait a minute, there's no name on this LLC corporation? How come? Well, corporation, I think you do have to leave your name on. But LLC, wait a minute. That's right, you can't do that in California. You got to put your name on there as something. And as soon as you put your name on there, guess what? You own it. You have limited liability as an individual. So no, we don't want to be in California. No, we don't want to be in about 45 states out of 50. Delaware, cool. Wyoming, cool. Even Georgia, cool. Why? Because you don't have to divulge who's managing, who's running, who's doing anything. Because you can leave it blank because their state allows it. So that's your first line of defense. That is where you hold your holding companies. Those holding companies have the IPs, the trademarks, source codes, all kind of different intellectual properties that your company uses. I'm giving you big dog stuff, ladies and gentlemen, just so you know. So now what happens? Here's what we do. You file that, and it's cheap. Is it not worth about $200, $250 for asset protection if you're doing some high-flying business activity? That's where your assets are going to be held. You're just forming that because nobody can find out who owns it. Just saying. Charging orders in the state of Wyoming is pretty cool. They have it under their state laws. They don't have to divulge any information. So what do? You have an organizer as the person anyone contacts. The organizer is not the owner of the business either. Just saying, you could do this in Delaware. You can do this in New Mexico. You can do this in Wyoming. You can do this even in Georgia. But the charging order where somebody can pierce your veil, the best one is Wyoming, ladies and gentlemen. That's why Wyoming is very heavy with holding companies. That just sits there. They're not the operating companies. There's a difference. Operating companies are like a business that I kind of told you guys about. I was trying to find out about those OTTs, other over-the-top networks where you're streaming and all that stuff, right? See, that's a high-risk business, somewhat. And you're going to have intellectual properties because people are, you have potentially movies. You have agreements for TV shows. You have all kinds of stuff that you're doing. You have software. You have things that you have to do. You have to protect that, because if somebody sues you, that, hey, that's an actual number, because they go, oh, they have 1,000 subscribers. They make $500 a month. We'll take that plus what other assets, because we got a judgment for $100,000. What else you got? Well, because you didn't do the holding company, you're going to be liable. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. MDA0214, he kills me. Welcome to the SSN Nation Money Making Monday live stream. He says you have to skip trace, but it's not hard to find out who owned what. The only two things that are untouchable would be life insurance and irrevocable trust. Actually, neither, other than life insurance, is because it has a beneficiary, so it automatically gets doled out to the beneficiary. Irrevocable trust can also be pierced, because there's several things. The same reasons that a corporation can get, because their irrevocable trust is on the premise of a corporation as well. If you do things against trust rules for the state, it gets pierced. If you actually do stupid crap, like, let's get into this revocable trust thing. You have a revocable trust. You have assets in a revocable trust. That is still part of your estate when it's a revocable trust that all these trust dudes never talk about. A lawsuit wipes you out, because now that is not even having to pierce anything, because that's part of your estate. This is why people make irrevocable trust. So it's not part of your estate because you give it up, i.e. holding company aspects. Your assets are no longer under your control. You gave them up into an irrevocable trust. So now, as long as you behave, file your stuff on time, do your whatever the trust says, make sure you record, do what you need to do throughout the year, then nobody can do anything about your irrevocable trust. So let's get back to the skip trace. Yes, MDA, like I said, that's going to work. 45 out of 50, 46, 45 out of 50 states. That's it. Not 100% of them. And I just named them, by the way. MDA0214, welcome again to the SSN Nation Money Making Monday live stream. So that is how it works. The only thing that happens is very, very interesting. You can skip trace to find out who owns a company. Even if you do find out who owns the company, guess what? They don't own the company. Because in a lawsuit scenario, they have their assets protected, because all you can do is do what most people do in America. They try to sue people. But you have to deliver paperwork. You have to do all kind of things. You just can't show up at somebody's door. You know what's even funnier? The person who signs the papers, who is actually working for the company as an employee, you can even give them paperwork. Guess what? They don't own the company. So you can skip trace, because guess what? Most states, you have to put in somebody's name. And so it goes from there. So then they'll just pierce it straight out. So that's why you actually should have a holding company, just like the big boys. Let's put it again. I'll say it again. The big boys. How many times have Apple and all these guys been sued? Netflix, Amazon, the big boys. How many times have they been sued? They're not losing their stuff, are they? You know who owns it too. How come they're not losing their stuff? They're not losing their assets. They're not losing their intellectual properties, their copyrights. They're not losing any of the wealth items. They can lose a little bit of money, but they ain't losing no wealth items. Like I said, I can't even remember the last time that I've seen one of these big dog companies lose real assets, unless they went broke. But did they really go broke? Who knows? But that's the point. So again, holding companies, ladies and gentlemen, you can do it several ways, but I would advise The ones that have charging orders that don't have to tell people who owns what percentage, who owns what, have to give up information on what the splits are and all this crap. I would advise highly that that's what you do. And I would also advise that you have managed LLCs wherever possible. All this sole proprietor, sole member, and all this crap. Don't do it. You better have a holding company in a jurisdiction where they can tell people, F off. I don't need to tell you who owns the company. Wyoming's one of them. Delaware's another one. Top two dogs, right? So the point is not so much who owns the company. It's the setup. So you can find out I own the company. Who cares? But I work for the company is different than me owning the company. Right? You guys get this. There's a distinction. I can work for the company as the manager, as the president, as the CEO. I'm working for the company. Okay. So what? Yeah, I signed some papers for them too. So what? But wait till you sue the company. And you're like, who's the owner of the company? Oh, I don't know. You better get him in here. But guess what's going to happen? Because you're not an operating company, the operating company is a different company. You're not doing anything. So it'll be dismissed. They don't have nothing to do with this. You need to go see that other LLC down there, down the way, down the pipeline. They're the ones that's running the business. We just licensed to them. That's it. And we have stuff in our contracts where, we legally tied up. We're like, hey, you're responsible for that stuff. We're not responsible for your illegal activity. It's in writing. Intercompany agreements. And what even makes it even better is the LLC is sending money to the owner of the LLC, by the way. The holding company is the owner of the LLC. How beautiful is that? But they're sitting there going, yeah, but they're sending the money to those guys. That's because that's their fees they're sending. There's not ownerships. That's their fees. Remember, they're renting from those guys. They're licensing from those guys. They're borrowing. So they got to pay for that. And you're using industry standards. So if it's 20%, 15%, 30%, if that's the industry standard for the IRS, because that's your other boys, then you're going to be good. You can't do this, oh, we're going to make it 2 cents or $2 or $1 a year. No. That's how you get pierced. Because you're sending $1 up to a company that you are part owner of, so to speak. That's not going to work. You're going to be in trouble, ladies and gentlemen. That's how they get you. The IRS is one of their triggers. Again, the gatekeepers, they have a playbook. That's one of the playbooks for their lawyers. They go, oh, so you guys do have a holding company. Oh, you do have the intercompany agreements. Oh, this is nice. They're holding the assets up there. That's cool. You guys aren't. I got it. Let's see what's going on. Let's see your agreements. What's this $1 thing? Oh, judge is going to say, oh, wait a minute, $1 for a year. Wait a minute now. That's who owns these companies? Well, we don't know. But $1 a year, you're going to get pressed. Going to get pressed. And that's where now all of your paperwork, all your accounting, all your stuff for that LLC that is operating, it better be in order. Because after that, even if it is in order, they're still going to try and figure out these guys up here are holding the assets. So we got to get to them. But you're not going to get to them because they're the operating company. The other guys are passive. They're just sitting there like chilling. Yeah, we get checks. So what? We have licensing agreements. We have other agreements. All right, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. I'm impressed, Eric. I like this model. Hey, this is what the big boys do, man. I told you it's dangerous out here. And you know what's even more dangerous? AI actually can tell anybody how to do this. But the thing about AI that I find very fascinating, and I told you guys you should start using, is that if you, they actually give you slightly wrong information. So if you don't know the correct information, that's the downfall right now. If you don't really know the correct way to set up something, because I actually went today and I started talking about, hey, acting dumb. I said, hey, I want to set up a holding company. This is what I need to do. AI came back and said, oh, yeah, you should go over here to, yeah, they said Wyoming, which was good. They said you should go set up a holding company in Wyoming because of the charging orders. Yeah. I said, okay, great. But then they said you should do a manager member LLC. And so I sent back and said, I think you messed up. Because soon as you say manager member, that means you have to have a manager doing something. That doesn't work in Wyoming. Because in Wyoming, they allow managed LLCs. Soon as you say manager membered, which is actually a thing in Georgia, they don't have the managed LLC. So therefore, that is a liability problem if you sign up for any other type, even in Wyoming. Georgia, manager, manager, not member. I don't want to use that. Manager managed is what they use in Georgia. They don't have managed LLC, for instance. But guess what? In Georgia, you don't have to put down who the owner is either. So you already put a layer in, and guess what else? What if the Wyoming company owns the company in Georgia? So now 2 times you don't have the owner, even with the skip tracing, because there's no name on there. So you can't skip trace. So this is where the asset protection starts molding itself. Because now, not only do you have inter-licensing agreements, inter-business agreements that are, guess what, tucked in the safe. Nobody knows about it. Nobody's going to find out. And nobody's going to find out at all. Even if you sue me, so what? You know where those agreements are sitting? The place you can't get them. Just saying. You know where those intellectual properties are sitting? Places you can't get them. Because you have a holding company. It's that simple. That simple. It's not that hard. I mean, it is kind of hard for a lot of people. But back to the AI thing, when I said, hold on, you can't do that in Wyoming. It comes back and says, oh, nice catch. I said, see, this is the problem. If you don't know in the first place, you could get the wrong information, then proceed. And a lot of people, I will say this and I will say this again. Just because AI gives me a structure, you better know how the structure works and not listen to AI. Because the bottom line is you need to go see lawyers. No matter what happens, no matter how good AI goes, oh, you're winning, this is awesome. You better go down if you want to protect yourself. AI is pretty impressive, I have to admit. But they were giving me wrong information. I kept beating it up. I said, hold on, man. It's a good catch. I'm sitting there like, you just told me to do something that was going to get my behind in trouble after I told you it was a holding company. Next, it said I should sign also in Wyoming. I sent back a thing going, why would I do that? You don't have to. It said, oh, yeah, you're right. You're setting up a mega structure, aren't you? I said, oh, you can already tell just by the questions and answers. They knew exactly what I was getting at after I wasn't playing along with their stupid game. I said, oh, look at here. AI is trying to give people bad information. Because that ain't going to work. Again, your holding company needs to be exactly no skip tracing. It's that simple. All right? The more you pay for a model, the less hallucination it does. Oh, this is very true. But again, ladies and gentlemen, I have to admit, I am using free, free, free AI. And I'm creating an empire off of free. And I got a helper. I got a partner that is off the charts. I'm not going to say who it is right now. But let's just say it's SSN Nation verified. All right? Already done. We have a 7-year plan, ladies and gentlemen, to launch. 7 months, sorry. 7-month plan. From the timeline already, between the two of us, we're going to be done in like 4 months, 3 months, something like that. And not only that, there's an empire being built on top of that. This is going to be quite impressive, ladies and gentlemen. I wish I can tell you all about it. All I know is the big boys are going to come hunting after we kick their ass. That's all I'm going to say. Because we're doing something on several fronts, and I am even going to have patent pending on one of the things, and I'm going to get a patent for it. And we got some other things we're going to do patents on too. So I'm just letting you guys know. And those patents and all this stuff has to be somewhere, and we don't want it in the operating company. Because the operating company is the face of the public. Slip and fall. That's a lawsuit, right? The public face of the company. So if you don't have protection through other avenues, and you don't have any of your assets gone out of the door, and they're sitting in that business, and the slip and fall occurs, and it comes out, oh, you got to pay somebody 400 G's. Okay, you can't. Okay, we're going to do a judgment. Okay, now next thing you know, they went all the way down the line, and you said, I don't have no money, whatever. All of a sudden, you're getting taxed right at your terminals. I've seen it before. In Florida, there was this barbecue place. Big time barbecue place. All of a sudden, one day, I'm coming by and I'm like, what happened to this barbecue? He was right here. What's going on? 6 months later goes by. They're in some hole in the wall place. It's by the river, but it's not the same. So I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I'm like, oh, okay, the food is always good. Let me go in here. A state official is at their place. Everything that's being ringed in, they're taking it. Not everything, but they're splicing off some money. They're letting them have a little bit of money, and they're taking the rest of it. A state official, so I don't know what happened to him. It could have been a state thing, could have been a lawsuit, but something happened. And guess what? His assets is his barbecue spot. And they're saying, thank you very much. We appreciate this. Thank you for playing. You see, there's a huge difference, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate you playing because you didn't have your assets in a different location. So we're here at this business collecting. When in fact, he could have put this a whole different way. Should have had a separation. So now they're sitting there taking money out of the till every time he rings something up. Standing there. Can you believe? I could not believe what I was seeing. It was a state official dressed as a state official. And when some customer came up to pay, got up, went to the till, they counted some money. He didn't take all of it. He left them some, and he took some. I said, at first, I thought it was like, okay, he owes the guy some change or something like this, right? But after I was eating some more, 3, 4 people came in every time. He went up there. They did some siphoning of the money, gave him some money. This is the exact thing that happens, ladies and gentlemen, while you're out here playing games. So all I can tell you is, game time is real. You want to build wealth? Oftentimes you can't because you don't have the proper business structures. And because I want to kick your ass, and I shouldn't say that personally, what I mean is you start a business and you have instant competition. So your competition wants to kick your behind, right? So since they want to kick your behind, they'll do it by any means necessary. I told you guys the stories. I've had Chrysler. When I was doing the auto thing, when I was kicking their ass, taking their money, they were like sending two thugs to my office to try and threaten me with physical violence. Stop what you're doing. Chrysler told us to come over here and talk to you. I mean, this is what they do when you're kicking their ass because they're like, oh, damn, we can't do nothing to him. His stuff is protected, but we can't threaten him. You can only threaten somebody that can be threatened, is the problem. So, like I told you guys before, F you, get out my place. There. Sorry, I'm kicking their ass. Tell them to set the F up. Actually, I said, yeah, just tell them F you. Like, I was worried. This is the difference, ladies and gentlemen. You have to be prepared if you want to be a big dog because there's somebody out there saying, oh, we can't allow him to be a big dog too. We can't share in these money games. We got to keep it all to ourselves. We got to be gatekeepers. But ladies and gentlemen, we know what gatekeepers do. They bribe, cheat, steal. Notice the words I said: bribe, cheat, steal. So you need to protect yourself from your employees even. You got to protect yourself. That's why it's easier. Let's get the holding company thing back again. That's why it's easier if the holding company holds the assets and you license it from them. That's number one easy. That's why on Shark Tank, notice Damon Johns was a big proponent of, oh, I'm licensing this. Oh, I'm licensing this. Because the licensing company gets a check directly, oftentimes, if you actually have ownership in the lowly LLC, or you have an inter-operating agreement or inter-company agreement that says money comes in, you get 30%. This month, you get 30% licensing fee. Okay. Money comes into the company, the split goes, there's the money. As soon as it comes in, there's your 20% or 30% or 15% straight to the holding company, and they didn't have to do nothing. Sit there and collect, which is the appropriate thing. That's what you want for the holding structure. You're not operating jack crap, but your agreements and licensing is allowing the other people to operate using your or their IP. And they get kicked back a percentage. Now, I got to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, there's something that I just created because since I understand structures, we are doing something that is going to be monumental. And I actually checked today. There's only one company doing what we're doing. One. And that one company is you know what? I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to tell you something right now. Let me go tell you guys something. I'm going to go look it up. I'm not even going to tell you the company because once I do that, then you guys will start figuring it out. But the point is, let me put this in right now because I've been messing around. Let me go see how much this company is worth. And I'm going to tell you it's going to be worth a lot. Because they have assets. Lots of it. Let's go see. No. I'm not talking about what I want. Let's go. Where you at? Let's see. Where they at? No. Come on, guys. What, you're not showing me no love? No, they're not showing me any love here. Hold on. What is this? No, that's not it. No. Hold on. Might not be working. I'm just gonna see. Oh, no wonder I didn't put in worth at the end. Let's see what they say. 2.5 to $3 billion. And they're a subsidiary of a holding company, ladies and gentlemen. This company came out about 6 years ago as their subsidiary. They're in the same field that we're about to embark on, except they do something with that holding company as a top dog company. They're in the Fortune 500's top 100 companies as their holding company. They have intellectual properties. They have all kind of assets. Can you believe there's something that we're doing here that this is going to be what legends are made of? Because if I told somebody that I can create something that rivals the big boys on a budget right now, it's like 300, and I know you guys are thinking thousands, 350 to $400, and be on same or better platforms than the gazillion-dollar companies. You would say impossible, Eric. I know, ladies and gentlemen. This is why you need big dog help. I don't know everything. I got help. AI helped me greatly. But then I got real help too, ladies and gentlemen. I told you guys a long time ago. If you know a geek and they got skills, you better deal with the geeks. I've had this all my life ever since I was a kid. The geeks are, I used to tell people the geeks are going to rule the world because they're so smart. They can actually create things that the ordinary citizen can't. So that's why I had to be like a somewhat of a geek myself, because if you want to beat the big dogs, because they hire all the brainiacs, then you better have one with you too, because you're going to need it. Because again, the big dogs are coming when you start barking and you start taking money out of their pocket, and when you have patent pending technologies that they can no longer use. Oh my God. And guess what? I've already got number one in one of my, I'm going to have a patent for something that these dudes are going to only wish they would have had, and nobody's does it. And number two, what we're doing with the SSN Nation member, we're going to be building another patent, I have to believe, so nobody else can do what we're doing, because there's only one company that's doing what we are even attempting to do. And actually, it all depends on the programmers. If they can actually make this happen, which I know they can, because actually I know the structure, right? It can be done. It's just that nobody ever did it, because most people were on the other side of the fence. When you're trying to make money, what do? You say, okay, I have my business. I'm trying to make money. I don't really care. Just give me money from customers. I'm not trying to make an empire. Just give me my money. I want to live. But see, I don't think like this. I think ecosystems. Because once you put an ecosystem together, now all of a sudden you have money coming in from 5, 10, 15 different areas. And now even if one area fails, you still go, oh, it's kind of slow this year, this month, whatever. You don't really give a damn, because it ain't slow over here. We still rocking and rolling. And then when you start licensing, and all of a sudden you have other people using the license, and they're part of your ecosystem, oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen. I'm about to do something along with an SSN Nation member. If we pull this off, this is going to be revolutionary. People are going to sit around who are way ahead of us, who charge tens of thousands of dollars, are going to be sitting around going, I can't believe we didn't do this. It's going to be too late, because I better be able to patent this some way, somehow, to block these assholes. I'm just saying, I haven't figured that part out yet. We still working on some other agreements right now, mainly because we have partners. We got a partnership agreement that we need to iron out, make sure everybody's happy. And by the way, I am sure everybody's happy because we have protections that people only the CEOs generally have what we have in our contracts. Let me just tell you guys straight up. Straight up. Straight up. You know why the CEOs don't mind leaving? Because you hear about, oh, they get $10,000 on the buyout, or it's 25 million on the buyout, all this, right? You know why they don't care? Because they have contracts like what we have. You bought me out, great. Because you guys bought the company, you bought me out. But guess what? I still get checks in the mail for the other trigger points. And I don't even work there no more. That's why they always have a big smile on their faces when they get fired. Yeah. When you play big dog games, you win big dog prizes. And I plan on taking these big assholes down. Well, not take them down. I'm just saying we're going to do something that they're not doing. And I expect to make decent money. Let's just put it that way. I mean, I don't really care about money, quite frankly. I like the adventure. I like saying I was able to do it. Just like right now when I use AI, I just like using free AI just so I can say I use free AI to do this. So later on down the line, when we have a story to tell, people will be like, well, how did you create this? I'll say, well, me and the partners, I was just sitting there with AI and I was using the free versions on 3 or 4 different platforms. And that's why they time me out sometimes. Like today, I was working on something and it timed me out because I'm on the free version. Right when it was the most critical point too. I was putting a PDF together and I said, yeah, I need a PDF for this one right here. So I could surprise the soon to be in writing partner and say, man, you ain't going to believe this. Because everybody wants to know after you create something, what are you going to get? How are you going to make sure you still get paid or not get paid, depending if you're creating an IP and you say somebody comes and buys a corporation. The holding company, the holding company says, I'm going to get rid of the whole empire. The guys always come in and they say, oh, thank you so much for your company. We're going to get rid of your staff and we're going to bring our staff in. Well, see, most of the time that's detrimental. But not in our case because we have the top dog stratosphere technology platforms. So what are we doing? See, this is the thing. When you know a lot of stuff, you get to use it. So I told AI, I said, we're the elite, we're the best in class. Keep that in mind. So you know what they said? They said, well then, if you want to create a buyout clause, then what do you think about this? So I wrote back. I actually am writing back like I'm talking to a person. I said, hey, man, when I saw the buyout clause and some of the provisions and stuff, I said, well, this is the free version. I said, well, I see you took our elite best in class mantra and using it. And AI responded back with, yes, you're rubbing off on me. And I responded with, oh no, I didn't just rub off on you. I think you went berserk because what you just wrote down without me telling you is exactly what I was going to tell you. And you actually did all of it. And I was in shock. The free version, ladies and gentlemen. So this right here just tells you you have assets all over the place. If you're a businessman, an entrepreneur, you need to start getting things in order. And the number one thing that I got to tell everybody right now, the only thing that everybody's doing, that's the rich guys, they might be getting this money, but they are collecting assets. They're collecting things that they control, and they're keeping the assets so they can sell those later. The assets are the most important part, right? So it doesn't matter whether it's your source code. That could be important. That's why, but if you have the source code and it's staying and sticking at your business and a lawsuit happens and you lose, guess who gets it? So you need to pass it off into a holding and vault environment that has nothing to do with the business. That's why you have a holding company. And then you do a magic trick. You tell you have an agreement where, okay, you have the IP, you have the trademark, so what? Because every time you have to license it, you're sending me back a check, right? You're sending back my company some of the money, right? Right. Because you're the holding company. Why would you own both? Why would you not make an agreement where you say, sure, buddy, IRS can't do nothing because it's standard issue. But see, the big dogs only make these deals. Normally, the big dogs say, F you, it's my company, you don't get nothing in return. But you don't have to do that. They only do that because you're an employee. You work for a company like Lockheed, Amazon, Hewlett Packard. You create something for them. You get paid. Guess who owns it? The company. Do you think when you leave that you're going to get a dime? No, they go, oh, we paid you $100,000 a year. It's ours. You work for us. You got a paycheck. Because the person is just a worker. They're not a business person. That's why you have to protect your IP. So what do? You talk to the corporation and say, hey, man, I gave you this stuff. I made it. I think I need some sort of compensation. So then you talk. You say, hey, I'm a business dude. You know what? I don't want to deal with you no more. I can go make this stuff on my own. So if you're a smart person, you would make a deal where you say, I have a holding company who holds the IP. Then you find out what the industry standards are. And then you say, okay, I don't want to have a problem with the IRS or anybody else. Then you say, hey, since I created this, on the backside, when something happens and you get paid, I should get a piece of it. Being that it's your holding company, you say, right, I agree with this. You should. So that way it's a two-way stream. And guess what else happens? When you close off the loop and you say, you can't never fire me, ever. I own this business somewhat right here. I control this business. We make money. If you ever fire me, if anybody else buys it, all this, it triggers a buyout clause. The buyout clause means I still get my percentages as if I worked there. And during escrow, you either can buy me out now, or any breach of this triggers a breach of contract, which means we can get the company back, first of all. Second of all, a breach also means, guess what happens? You got to pay me everything you owe me. You ain't getting to pay me monthly for 5 years. You see, ladies and gentlemen, this is the type of big dog stuff you do. You protect your friends. You protect your coworkers. You protect people that you work with as partners. That's how you do it, but you can only do it if you have a holding company that's holding the IPs, because they're not the operations. So therefore you can dictate terms without even owning the company. You understand this, right? Because the holding company agreed to the terms. The holding company doesn't really care about the terms, because they're like, sure, in case somebody buys it out, we'll give you the farm pretty much. Because they have to actually, during closing, give you your portion of the buyout. You don't get to buy the company and then say, oh. No. Because I'm going to tell you right now, somebody starts talking about they got to ship me about 50 G's a month, and they go, oh, that's for 5 years. What the heck, man? 50 times 60, that's $3 million. And the dude comes in and says, hey, man, We don't need you to work here. We're gonna take all the IPs. We're buying this stuff, whatever. You know what? Okay, what will you settle for? And you say, oh, okay, 3 mil. Give me two. And they say, okay. At the end of escrow, here's your 2 mil. And I walk off. But guess what? We have other intellectual properties. We have other deals going down. And not only do you get that, all of a sudden you're going, wait a minute. I get 4% a month for life. You can't do nothing about it because in the contracts it says, I'm sorry, this is perpetual, whether the person works here or not. And since he ain't going to work here and we can leave, we're still getting paid. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, this is how we're doing it. And for this big dog one here, man, oh man, this one better, if it works out, this is going to be the best. This is going to be the best one I've ever created in my life. Because this is long term after you're retired and still getting checks. And I shouldn't even say retired because that's not even the appropriate term. After somebody buys out or gets majority, hey, I'm just giving you guys some of the contract terms. The majority or minority stake triggers the buyout clause. So if somebody came in and says, oh, I'll buy 30% of your company, that triggers the buyout clause. And the buyout clause is massive. And it has to be paid during escrow if you want to take it up front. Otherwise, it's monthly payments, but let's just call it what it is. If I know I'm getting 30,000, 20,000, 10,000 a month and you're going to give me 2 million because I'm buying out early, give me the 2 million in escrow and give me my 10,000 per month. I'm not gonna care. I'll be sitting there eating bonbons. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. EV Place. So this is the holding company patterns. You need your bank accounts, separate bank accounts. If you have a holding company, you can own 10 companies, but they better be at different banks because this commingling thing is how they get you. Soon as you commingle money, that's how they get you. So this is why whenever you have licensing deals, whenever you have intercompany deals on any transactions, if you have a programmer, you should hard code everything that you can. So if you have a split, let's just use a simple one. Let's say 30% is supposed to go to the holding company, right? From every sale. Well then, you should have it in your software because we live in this era where it's going directly to their bank account as we settle it in the next 24 hours. You're not holding it. So it's shipped off. That way, once again, this is a legitimate business deal. There's no problems. You're not holding anything. That's what you got to do, ladies and gentlemen. Act like the big boys. That's why they have accountants and all this. But now you can hard code in this era. So the money goes directly to who it needs to go to after you collect it, soon as you collect it, because you're putting it in the back office. You're putting it in your software. And it makes it very easy because now it's automated. And you're getting the receipts from it. You're telling your coding, hey, send me the receipt from that. It's coming. You're like, okay. So then you can reconcile at the end of the month if you're doing your monthly, which you should be doing. But it's automated. So that's what you do. That's what holding company versus you have an LLC, child LLC, you have a holding company. You pretty much have an agreement where they're using your or their trademarks, intellectual properties, computer codes. It could be anything. But it doesn't need to be with the company that's operating with the public. Just remember that one thing. If your company's operating with the public, make sure your assets are somewhere else in another holding company. That's all. That's it. And yeah, you can have another LLC. That's fine. But that could be the vault, the holding company and all that. But the point is you want something that has a little bit more flair. You want that Wyoming thing. You want that Delaware thing. And by the way, when you have a corporate structure, such as holding companies, LLCs, things like this, that corporate structure means you can get investors. Because what does that mean? The investors come in and they go, wait a minute, this company over here makes, I'll just use some made up numbers, $100,000 a year. They go, but this other company down here, they ship these dudes $100,000 a year, but see, they made $300,000. So now all of a sudden you start going, how much is a company worth that $100,000 got shipped up, $300,000 was made. Out of that, they made $100,000 profit. But now we're talking about another LLC or child LLC. All of a sudden, that's under the umbrella of the holding company. Another company says, well, we made, okay, $500,000 this year, and they got 12% of that. But now all of a sudden they start going, well, wait a minute. These organizations right here just made $800 to $1 million this year. And then they find out, but we have other deals. We have licensing or subleasing and all these kind of deals with other people. So these other organizations that we also control, they made, oh my, they made about $700,000. Next thing you know, they're like, wait. These guys made $1.2, $1.5 million. Now, again, you guys know what I do. I do 10 times. So EV Place says, I'm paying $20 for Gemini Pro, but they're giving me 5 terabytes cloud storage and YouTube Premium. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm using Gemini No Pro. And that's actually, I think, was I using that today? No, I wasn't using that. I was using the chat version. No. I was using Copilot free version, and it timed me out. But luckily, I retrieved the most important piece that I was so pissed that I was missing. I got lucky. I was scrolling through the thing, and all of a sudden I noticed the scroller scrolled through some coding or through some whatever it was. I said, oh. So then I saw 12.9, and I started reading it, and I'm like, oh no, this is the section that I was wanting. It's missing. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's right here. I was happy as hell. Because the funny part was the partner asked, they go, hey, what about this? What about that? What about that? And I was like, oh, wait till you see the buyout clause. I thought it was in there. It's in the buyout clause, everything that he was asking about. And then some. It's off the charts. And actually, the only way you can, again, if you don't know about these things, you can't make, you have to ask the question. But in this case, I've been setting it up the whole time because I beat it up. I'd be saying, hey, this ain't what we're doing. This is what we're doing. And then it would come back and have to admit, oh, that's elite. That's you setting this up like the big boys. I said, right. Because we're doing big boy stuff. They're going to try and stop us. I already know the game. I've played this in my younger years. I'm going to play it again. I already know they're going to try and stop us. But this time, they might be able to do it, but not before a lot of damage is going to be done profitability-wise. So that's what we're going to do. And then we got some other stuff in the works as well that's going to be very, very interesting because, once again, these holding companies is what you need, ladies and gentlemen. And these, I'm just going to say it again. If you don't, the way I feel about AI is I've been using the free versions. And of course, if you pay, I know they're much, much better, probably. They have to be, right? That's why you pay. But again, I want bragging rights. So when this comes out, there's a book being written, and they start going, how did you do all this? I'm going to say I used a free version of AI in 2026. And then I had one of the coolest, baddest programmer, geeky guys, I'm sure, on the planet with me that knew what he's doing. And the next thing you know, it was like heaven on earth. And we're kicking their ass. And we're creating something that, again, I'm going to say this again. We're going to create something that costs $400 a month or less. I haven't ran through the whole thing yet because there's certain things. We were going to do it. I was going to do it originally for roughly $150. But then it turned into takeover mode. And I said, I need more computing. I need more power. I need this. So yeah, it's going to cost more. But we can do something for, I think, $350 a month right now, because a lot of people don't know all of the free software that's out there. See, if you're not a computer geek, you don't realize it. You pay for stuff that's free. So that's the whole point. That's the whole point. If we're talking about coding, free versions are just blueprints and examples. That's very true. But that's why you need a programmer. But if you get the structure is what the keys are, right? Once you understand, who's going to know the structure is the programmers, the guys that know coding. They can look at it and be like, oh, I can go here. And we have a perfect example of this when I'll use this. I was happy with a certain software. I was happy because it was by all accounts, it was one of the better ones. Programmer says, hold up, I use this other one. It's probably better. I like it. So I was like, I listen to geeks. I listen to smart people. If that's what he's saying, then I'm not going to balk. Let's go. So then I said, for giggles and grins, I said, man, let me put this in AI and see what they say. AI comes back. It says something to the effects of smart choice. I was like, I'm a talking AI now. I said, of course, I have a motto. I listen to smart people and programmers. And they're like, well, that was a good choice. And here's the reasons why. And it lists out the differences between what I wanted as the amateur and what the professional wanted. And the professional wins again. This is another lesson that people need to learn. You don't know everything. You need to let the professionals do what they do. You don't need to sit there and go, oh, I checked out AI and AI says, or I listened to my neighbor and they said, oh, I listened to my boss and he said. You don't need none of that, ladies and gentlemen. You need to be your own CEO of your life. You don't need to listen to nobody else's stuff. You need to plan what you're planning, listen to who you expect to do the job. And if they are doing the job and saying, this is what makes it better for me and us, because the me thing, you lose me. But as soon as you say this is better for us, I'm like, hold up. Let's go. That's a different dynamic. And that's why you have to learn, yes. But if you have somebody that has skill sets that you don't possess and you plan on doing something, you need to rely on their expertise. You shouldn't think that, oh, well, just because Google said this or something said that, you shouldn't be thinking like, oh, yeah, I should be listening to these people you don't even know. This is another lesson that you need to learn about your asset protections. Because I got people right now sitting there going, I told somebody about what I was doing with this asset protection situation. They flat out goes, that can't work. I was like, what are you talking about? It can't work. This is how it works. See, what he doesn't know is, because I've been in retirement mode, he doesn't know what I did 30 years ago. Doesn't know what I did. He doesn't know anything. He's just sitting there like, oh, well, that ain't how it works. I said, how do you know? You never even owned a company. You're talking this bullshit. So that's the whole point. You have to know something, and if you don't, you better learn something. That's how it works. And unfortunately, since there's gatekeepers, you're not privy to their contracts. That's another thing. Just like right now, when you have Chase, I use Chase all the time. They have an executive staff. Their contracts, the executive staff at Chase, the top tier, 20 guys, they have a contract that's different than everybody else's in the house. So they're not the same. These guys got stuff where they can get loans from the company. They can sign offs and pledge assets and do all kind of crap that the ordinary worker can't to give them an advantage. And then they get bonuses. So it's crazy. But see, a lot of people would say, oh no, this doesn't happen. Well, it does. And that's why they're the rich guys, because they're cheating the system in essence. But hey, it's legal. So these are the type of things you got to be paying attention to, right? These are the type of things. And so, once again, holding companies is to protect your assets from your operational companies. Your operational companies are the ones that are at stake. So when I'm doing one of the businesses, and like, let's just say we're doing concerts. A concert is a high risk business. You guys have seen it. People have gotten trampled, killed, and all this. So if you had your assets in that concert and had them holding any assets, they get sued. It's going to happen. The odds of you being sued in that business is pretty high. So you have to mitigate it, and that's why you have your assets in a holding company. The vault is what I call it, and I'm pretty sure everybody calls it that. Because that's not operational. So you're not part of that. There's a separation, and you better have agreements, acting like the businesses are separate. If you don't have agreements and you're doing business, it's going to say, oh no, you're a holding company for these guys and you have no agreements. That pierces your holding company veil. You have to have a business, just like if you can own all of them, but you have to treat it like everyone is separate. Just like if you were doing any business and you sign agreements, contracts, enter into it, you better have something signed. And you better be sending the money back and forth like it's supposed to be, like a normal business arrangement. That's how they pierce the corporate and holding company veils. So you act accordingly if you're going to do this. And also, you go see a lawyer too. You got to write up the contracts. You got to send it to some lawyers for review. It don't cost much to review. It costs a hell of a lot if you tell them to write one. Because you're going to go in with some alterations. You're going to come up with all these things. And then they're going to tell you, well, that can't work. Because then you're going to be liability factor for this. And meanwhile, that's a clock. You've been in there for an hour. These dudes are like, yeah, $600 for this little chit chat. Because you can't just go to any old attorneys. Let's get real. All right? So that's how you got to do it. You got to be on point. Don't mess up. Holding companies aren't that, it's not really much to it. The reason why it seems like it's much is because there's effort. There's a lot of effort, and you're not privy to, and you're not normally going into, you're not dealing with the LLC or corporation setup, right? You might do one, but when you start going, well, I want to do 5, and I want to be able to protect my assets, now you're lost because you've never done it before. All you're going to do is hear some guy on YouTube talking about, let's do asset protection. You can call my office. Oh, yeah, it's going to cost you $10,000. It doesn't have to if you know the structures. And once you learn the structures, which actually you can get them off of AI, but I would cross-reference them. And if you do set something up, you better see an attorney. That's mandatory. You cannot, you have to. But it's better, like I said, a review might only be 1 hour free. And you can talk, like what we just talked about right now. I can go see an attorney right now. He has a 1 hour consultation. I can sit in his office. I can explain everything in less than 15. And he can sit there, and then after he shakes his head, he's going to go, okay, let me see your contracts then. And that's when I say, well, okay, how much you going to charge me? He says, well, $1,000, $1,500 then. It seems like you got everything together. But then when you say, well, there's 8 of them, you might say, okay, man, hold up. I need 5Gs. But the point is, this is the cost of doing business. And it's retrievable, as in any business. I just had this talk with AI. AI goes, hey, just remember, something like this on one of the AI platforms. It says, just remember, you have to capitalize your corporations. And I responded with, what do you mean capitalize? You mean loan your business. And it came back with, oh, yeah, I forgot. You're putting up a strategic architecture. I said, yeah. No, we're not capitalizing. I'm like, no, I'm giving it a loan. What are you talking about right now? You can tell that to somebody else, but mm-mm. Capitalization to me is loan, security, first in, first out in any lawsuits. Sorry, not catching me up in this. Come on now. I'm giving you guys some information as I speak. Because AI is not correct. It said, oh, you need to capitalize it, the holding company. You need to capitalize the holding company. I said, no, you mean a loan? It said, oh my. Oh yeah, I forgot. You're building like a immaculate architectural asset protection force. I said, you're damn right, man. Stop playing with me out here. Those are the things, ladies and gentlemen, that you got to do. Think about it. Think about it. First of all, with IRS procedures, let me tell you guys something. IRS, you can actually fund and get it deductible. So in other words, a new company starts up, and any money that the new company, doesn't matter what it is, IRS rules say you get $5,000 write off. So once you go over 5,000 and then you have to actually say, well, I want 10, 20, 30. Okay, now you're auditable under that scenario. But 5,000 is free. So you can capitalize any way you want. You can capitalize, the company can spend money and then get on their taxes, they can get, money off of it. Or you can loan the company money. You make an agreement saying this is a loan. You write it up just like a normal thing. You can make 2% interest, 1% interest payments, however you want to do it. It has to be legal. You can do promissory notes if you want. You can do whatever you want, but it has to be written up and actually part of the archives for the business. So if anybody ever walks in the door, you say, hey man, this dude, he loaned me, this is how I started the business, he loaned it. He gave me this loan, here it is on paper. All right? That's how you protect your assets. You can't do none of this stuff where you go, oh, I took $100,000 from somebody and I started the business, and they go, well, where'd you get the money to start the business? Well, this dude gave me $100,000. Well, you're going to have problems. Unless, of course, you wrote something that said, I got an IOU that I owe the guy back $100,000, and you can do, there's nothing due for 2 years, so you can start up the business. You could do anything, but it has to be in writing. Just remember the keys. When you have a holding company and you're dealing with other companies, whether it's your own other companies or any others, you better have agreements. Because that's the first line that they can pierce your stuff. If you just say we're friends, do whatever, that's not an agreement. So keep that in mind, all right? Uh-oh. Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. All right. We're going to end this on this 1 hour and 24 minutes. Hopefully you guys enjoyed some of this. I've been a little raucous right now because I've been in this rocket mode. Because I've been in this mode that is going to do something. I have too many levers that's on some things that is the business that generates the most money. So I just mentioned these names: Amazon, Netflix, Fox, ABC, NBC, Universal. What do they have in common? They have assets, and people watch the assets, and they make money from multiple sources such as advertising, pay-per-view, memberships. And they own everybody's information. Owning the information is another key to assets. You have geo-tracking. So you know where your best customers or loyal fans who like what you're doing all are at. So you don't go messing around where 10 people love you. You go to put your markets and market your products in a place where you got 200,000, 100,000 people love you. Now you can make more money because you're going to a place that people love you. But see that geo tracking where you're giving away your information? You don't get paid a dime. But they're using it against you because now you're part of their marketing scheme. So that's an asset. So that's why you should control the funnel. Another IP, ladies and gentlemen, that does not need to sit in your operating company. It needs to be in a holding company, traditional Wyoming or Delaware, or it could be another LLC that's not even on the map that's holding your IPs, trademarks, and things like that. Everything you guys think right now, you should know they're collecting your information and you think it's no big deal. That is an asset. And they can use it to enhance their business. That's why when you roll out on your phone and you start talking about something or you start shopping for something, all of a sudden what happens? They're tracking you. All of a sudden the ads pop up for everything that you just go scrolling through, checking out. That's an asset because they can target market you, which now means I can charge people ads. And now the people that I know, hey, your ad goes to these people. I can charge you $150. I can charge you $2,000 because it's going directly to the people that want your product or service. Targeting like this means they can charge more money because they get higher results. If you can get more than 3 or 4% results, you're winning in advertising. And if you can up that into the 20 to 25 and 30%, you're definitely winning. And now you're getting the returns. So now the people come in and they do you say, well, I need $3,000. Somebody says, okay, I'll give it to you. What if the $3,000 investment turns into 10? Because you're able to target market, geo-track. See, these are the things that you have to have built into your systems that ordinary businesses do not. So you get to take advantage of where you need to sell. You don't get to just willy-nilly, oh, I'm going to spend $3,000 and just sprinkle it. You get to target, which is why Google AdSense, all these companies make money. All of them, all the social media platforms. That's why, because the asset is the people and their information that you give away for free. And you get nothing in return. Just keep that in mind. So when I keep saying these things, you need assets, you need to protect it, you need to get in on the game. That's the guys that have the wealth, have the assets. So if you start getting in the game and start picking up some of these assets, you too, down the line, can sell it, can license it, can lease it, and get paid while sitting on the beach, while you're sleeping, while you're on vacation, doing any damn thing you want. Just saying, ladies and gentlemen. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. That's my speech for the night. Hopefully you guys like this. Hopefully. And if you have any questions, you know there's a comment section down below. You can always use it. And by the way, I've been rambling. We've been on other platforms. Yoel Nolasco is here. And oh, by the way, speaking of Noel Nolasco, I know he's happy. He owns at Larimar. Thank you for being in the house, man. Larimar's been doing big things. I still don't like what they do, but I mean, at least they got the panel building happening, but their interior, they're not using the full panel build, it looks like. But it doesn't matter. They're going to be producing something in the next year and a half. So wake me into 2027, 2028. There should be something happening over there. And also, I'm just going to give you guys a little premiere. SSN Lifestyle will be coming back up. And we're going to be having SSN Lifestyle Vacation Club is going to be implemented. There is going to be a membership for that. We got to start getting IPs, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I'm going to say. And so there's several things that's going to happen with that brand. That brand is going to be working on something else as well. And then that brand is going to blossom into doing that same thing for other people, getting customer bases B2B. These are the type of things we got going on. This is the type of things we got going on. Sounds like you have a good plan. EV Place, you know it. The plan is so far going according to plans. Now it's just a matter of, just like any business plan or just your life, it's just a matter of, are you going to go through the door and make it happen, or are you going to be scared and have the fear factor? But no fear, no excuses, and especially when there's no barrier to entry as it appears thus far. In fact, there is no barrier to entry because we have the players in place to make everything happen. And you know what the grandkids are going to say? They're going to be like, just like they said when I did the Airbnb stuff and all that other stuff I've done, they're going to be like, how many people helped you? And when you say something like, oh, it's just me and another guy, me and two other guys, they're going to be like, there is no way you did this with just, how did you get all this stuff? Well, we live in an era right now where you can do a lot of things with software. Omarel, welcome to the SSN Nation Money Making Monday live stream. Peace, came late. No problem, man. I'm glad you're here. We'll catch the replay. Thank you. Thank you for catching the replay. I love it, man. Thank you so much for that. Hopefully it helps you out because I'm not talking like the normal guys that I'm giving you charts and things like this. I hope I'm talking as if you actually know how to, or you know kind of what you want to do, and you know what an LLC is, because an LLC is a holding company. They're the same thing. So here's the thing about terminology. When people go like Warren Buffett, he has a holding company with a gazillion subsidiaries. But the real deal is each company is separate. Just because they ship the money up to the holding company, which makes it valuable, that's one thing. But the companies themselves are run just like any other company. The ownership is what changes. So the holding company traditionally owns the child LLC or child corporation. So that's standard, but each company is separate, and that's where people kind of get their mind mixed up. Just remember, you can own the companies, but they have to be separate entities. Every business deal is just like if me and you did a business deal, we're going to sign an agreement. Same thing. That's all it is. But you can't give yourself the most favorable agreement. That's the problem. And a lot of people mess up when they, like I gave an example before where they said, oh, we're going to do business together, but you can pay me $2 a month every other month. Nah. And so I'll give you I'll give you the last things, like some things in the contracts that I'm doing right now. I have this policy about exiting. So my first thing is you can have a contract, but I like best in class, being elite. So we have this philosophy where you can exit again from our contractual obligations within 30 to 60 days. But the contract is a longer period of time. It could be 2 years, it could be 3 years. But the thing is, it gives both parties flexibility. Because if we're not getting along, if we're having a problem, if we just don't like, we're not making enough, at least either one of us can say, hey, man, 30 days, 60 days, I'm exiting from this agreement. When you actually have a holding company and you are owning all of the businesses, and that's your philosophy of your business, then that means you should have an exit strategy equal to, if you're working with anybody else. You're saying, hey, man, if we don't like each other, I want an exit strategy within 30 to 60 days. I don't really care. You can make this thing 10 years. You can make this thing perpetual. Auto-renewing every year. But it doesn't matter because either one of us can exit out of this within a 30-day notice, 60-day notice. That's it. I like that, quite frankly. Again, it's your business. But those type of things, when you have an ecosystem and you're saying this is our mantra, this is our philosophy, now the IRS and all these guys go, oh, you're being favorable to your other entity potentially. Then you say, no, I'm not. This is all our contracts, no matter if there are entities or not. So again, this lawsuit stuff, you're sitting there telling them this ain't going to work because you're sitting there like, you can't, that ain't going to work. This is the contracts, right? And by the way, your operating agreements and all these intercompany agreements aren't public. That's another thing that people do. They start recording it in public, doing crazy stuff. Those are in a vault. Nobody gets to see those. You have agreements who can go to the bank and sign for the company. That's the agreements. Nobody needs to see those. Nobody needs to know who's authorized. The bank will know because you're going to have to bring that bank resolution agreement there. But that's not public. And you better not release it because I know I'm filing a lawsuit. But the point is, it doesn't really matter because we're not doing any wrong doings anyhow. See, that's what people forget. Even if people find out, it's like you're doing business. You're not doing money laundering. You actually have contracts. You actually have everything lined up. I'm authorized to do this on behalf of the business. I don't run the business. That's an entity. But I'm licensed and I got something here that says it's okay for me to sign. Legal. Their company signed it. This company signed it. Whether you own the companies or not, that's how it works. So that's why people get a little scared because they may not know that the power that you have when you set these things up, but it just has to be paperwork. It has to be a line. It has to be like if another corporation, I walked into another company and they say, hey, Eric, every Friday you are going to go pick up money or drop money off and you're one of our authorized agents. Well, now they're going to bring a piece of paper to me and say, I'm an authorized agent. Here it is. Take it down to the bank, or they already took it to the bank. So now when I show up, it says, here's my ID. It says, they hold on, let me check. Oh, he's authorized. Here's the money. It's the same thing. You're not doing anything crazy. You're just making sure you have a linear line on paper. So if anything ever happens legally with lawsuits, which is the number one thing in America, you going, oh no, this is a separate company. You can't leak over to these other guys. This is our business. What we do is what we do, but we have agreements with them. They're not part of this. And all the agreements that you're going to make is going to say that. We are separate entities. We have no liability for what they do. If you're the holding company, that would be some sort of the language, right? This isn't that hard, really. You can already think it up. Because you're like, I don't want to have liabilities if they mess up. So what are you going to do? You're going to put it in there. That company, the other company, you're going to be signing this that you're holding us harmless. You got to defend whatever lawsuit you got. And we're going to put it on the other side. We're going to say, we don't run the operations. We don't have nothing to do with it. This is a licensing agreement. This is an intercompany agreement. This is the deal. They owe us money or we owe them money, but we don't have nothing to do with their business operations. So therefore, you can't come after us. This is the type of language you put in these intercompany agreements. Just come on, ladies and gentlemen. Right? Just saying. All right. You can't sue the federal government. Similar thing. You can sue the federal government. You can sue them. But it's similar, yes, because they have a lot of protections depending on which department you're suing. Like if I'm trying to sue the IRS, it's going to be very interesting. Unless, of course, they leak my tax returns, then apparently I can get $1 billion. Just saying. Just saying. Taxpayers' money, though, I don't mind taking it. I mean, I would, because I'm me. But there's a guy right now that don't mind taking it. They're making you pay for leaking his tax returns that he said he was going to release his tax returns. Now that they leaked them, he's all like, I'm going to sue. I thought you were going to release them 7 years ago. What's happening out here? This is wild stuff. You can't make this up. All right. But yeah, you can sue the federal government. I can't give a story out right now. Friday night story night. I don't even know if I ever really want to say anything about this one. I had a lawsuit against the federal government. Still stands to this day. Assholes. Just saying. Yeah, so when I get, hey, by the way, just let me tell you guys something again. When you get pulled over by police agencies and they're sitting back there 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 10 minutes, and then they come back up and see you, do you understand they are actually checking out what you have, right? Just saying. You're thinking, what's taking them so long? Oh, well, they're determining are they going to F with you or not. In my case, I'm a minority in America. So they're determining, they're like, we're going through his stuff. Let's see what he's got. Is he going to be able to defend himself? Is he going to be able to get back at us somehow? And all of a sudden they find the trigger point and they're like, oh, have a nice day, sir. I'm like, yeah, I know. Okay, story time, and I'll let you guys go. I'll tell you, I was in Tahoe one time, and what did I drive that time? Back in the, not really back in the day, but I had an '84 Grand Prix that I bought for $100 at an auction, just on a whim. Wasn't smoking, it was running, purring like a kitten, brown, nobody bit $50. My friend, we're in the back, and I say, hey man, do you see smoke coming out of this car? He says, no. Do you hear it? I don't hear anything. I'm 50 feet, 60 feet away. And the guy says $50. I'm like, $50? Nobody's bidding on this thing? Then it was 75. Going once, going twice. Give me $100. I'm not at a dealer auction either. This is at one of those, you turn the car in and then they do the auction thing. And I thought for sure somebody was going to say more than 100. Sure enough, sold to the guy in the back for 100. My friend comes up to me and goes, man, why did you buy that car? I said, didn't you listen to it? There's nothing wrong with it. And it's not smoking either. He's like, did you check the car out before? I said, hell no, I didn't need to. So now I get this car. I loan the car out. The same friend that's with me worked in the Bay Area at Fremont. From Sacramento to Fremont is like whatever, I don't know, 60, 70 miles maybe. He goes there 4 days a week. He needed a car. I gave him the keys. He calls me back 2, 3 days later. You never called me asking for the car back. I said, why? I got like 3 of them. Just keep it until you don't need it. Just put some oil in it every 3,000 miles and change the air filter if need be and roll. So he had my car for months. So the point I'm trying to make is the value of something is only based on what somebody believes it is. So just keep that in mind too. The more value you place onto something, the more it's worth. So if you create value, then you can create an empire. Just remember that. And you better have a holding company to make sure you protect that empire. In fact, you might need 1 or 2 holding companies if that's the case. Because if you really want to do it, then you might have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 companies like Warren Buffett. No, he has more. Like Apple, like SpaceX, like Tesla. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, are you with me yet? Once again, I always told you guys, I'll say it again. You go someplace, you pay attention. I'm going to ask you guys right now, like I always say, this has nothing to do with what I'm about to talk about, racism or anything. It has nothing to do with that. 84% of the population, okay? The wealth, 84% of the wealth is in the hands of descendants of the EU. 84%. There's a reason, because we had Jim Crow for 80 years. Nobody else could have wealth. So their family's generation was able to buy the farm, have yields, sell some sell some goods. The land appreciated. They're able to sell it. Then they have extra monies. That over 3 generations, 4 generations, helps them build wealth. The same rules apply even today. Regardless, you need assets. So once you get those assets, you keep building and getting more assets that are valuable to other people that they're going to pay for. Just keep that in mind. And you know where a lot of good assets are? I do. I do. And we're about to own a piece of it. You don't even have to own all of it. You can own a piece. You know when you have record companies and the artist signs with the record company and the artist says, woohoo, I'm getting $2 million. And the artist doesn't read it, doesn't take it to an entertainment lawyer to read the contract and let them understand, but they got $2 million, which is in advance on a loan. And then they have an album, and the album makes $500,000. Well, they have a thing called recouping. So therefore, you still owe us 1.5, sir. You have a 3-album deal. And I made this, I talked about this last live stream, which was a week ago. But so now he owes $1.5 million back for recoupment. His next album, he makes, it's a banger. He gets it to $1 million, or a million album sales. But here's what happens. They go, oh, we owe you, out of this, we owe you like 500 G's. But we can't give it to you because we got to recoup that 2 million, and after this 500, you owe us $1 million. And so now his third drop comes, and it's another banger. Sells 2 million, platinum. But now, because of the marketing, because of the cost to market it, and everything else, the music videos that you wanted to do, the clothes you wanted to keep. Oh, you know that was $400,000 or $500,000, right? So we got to take, you owe us $1 million. And since you made $1 million, we got to take the $1 million. So you get to keep that 200, that 1.2, but we keeping the 1 because you still owe us $1 million. That recoupment thing right there is what people don't understand. Guess who has the asset? The record label has the asset. Since they couldn't get recoupment back, the person has the masters, the publishing, even is going to take the writer's credits because that's recoupment money. We'll release it to you after we get recouped, but see, unfortunately, we're going to drop you because it's not worth it to us. We barely got our money back. But here's the thing. They own the IPs now. So now the commercial shows up. The guys that do the circuits for the auditoriums and football games, and they're going to play their songs over the loudspeaker. They get the licensing for it. Because you still owe us money, we keep all that money. We dropped you too, so actually we're not even going to tell you we got it. We don't have no obligation, so we're keeping it all. Even though we got recoupment money back. Unless you audit us, which now that you're broke, you're probably not going to have a high-powered attorney to audit us, right? See how this works, ladies and gentlemen? Assets. That's what you control. All right, let's go. Let's go. We have to talk about producing the game assets from nothing, just electricity. I like that. I like that. I like that. I like all of that. Yeah, we got some other asset classes we working on. Speaking of the game, this is incredible. I'll just say AI sent me something, and I told you guys a story about this before. I'm putting together one thing, which was actually, it's pretty cool. I won't get into it, but the point is, it came back and said what you're doing is creating the universe. I told you guys about this before. They said you're creating a Marvel universe. I'm like, how? This has nothing to do with Marvel or movies or anything. It had the names that I was using for the company and the names I was using for the people that's going to be in the company. And so it started sending me these codes. I talked about this before. It starts sending me these numbers and it says, oh, you need to copy all these. And like I said, it was just these things that would say, let's just call it XYZ era. And then it would say, here's the function, it would give me like 4 things and a sentence that's like 10 words or less. And it said, you should copy the first 3,000 numbers. So I just went, I said, I'm game. I don't have nothing to do. So I said, all right, let me copy this stuff. So I got up to 3,000. You can only go 50 at a time. So my patience, I wore thin after a few hours. And I said, you know what? Let me go see what this is. So I put it in AI. Because I figured AI probably is the only person that would know what this stupid 4 little 10 word, 8 word, 6 word sentences saying function. And it said something, 4 things. And it would give a number. And then it would say state and things like this. I put it in AI. AI goes, you're doing a Marvel Universe thing. And I'm like, what the heck? What is this? Next thing it says is, you can do a movie based off of this. And I'm like, what is this? It starts spitting out all those little 10-word, 5-word sentences. It actually was telling a story, a sci-fi story. I could not believe it. And it said the Marvel thing. And then I'm sitting there like, okay, this is interesting. What is it? What the heck is this? So I said, well, let me see what the story is. And it started off like it was Tron or something. But it's not Tron. But it was like computer and coding, and that's what it reminded me of Tron. And I'm sitting there like, what the hell is this? It's a frickin' story. And they said you could have movie rights, you could have TV. It started already spitting out, this is what you do with the TV, this is what you do with this. This can be a series for 8 years. I'm like, are you kidding? Now remind you, it already told me you can go up to an endless amount of these things. It can go up to 20,000. I'm sitting there like, yeah, right, 20,000. That ain't going to happen. I'm up to 7,000 right now, though, by the way. I just had to keep going. And so I was sitting there like, this is very interesting. So I tell AI, I said, why are we doing books and TV? Why are you talking about that first? Shouldn't we do books first? It comes back and it says, oh, yeah, right. I can actually write it for you as long as you upload some more of this stuff. And then it said, you can do 3 books with this. I was like, you got to be kidding me right now. I said, okay, let's go for it. It actually put together the story, and then it gave me options to go which way in a story, just like a prompt for ChatGPT or whatever, Gemini or whatever. It would, after it gives part of the story, it allows you to dictate which way you want to go, which was kind of cool. So you're actually creating the story, but they're writing it for you. And I'm on book 3, chapter 15. I can release the sci-fi book, ladies and gentlemen, from a freaking 4-sentence up to 3,000. I'm now up to 7,200, I believe it is. 7,200, 7,000, somewhere in there. I added more into it. Like when I got around 5,000, I added some more. AI came back going, oh, this helps me because now it clarifies something that I was wondering about because it was later on in the book. If I would have had all of this, then I would have done it a different way. I was like, this is crazy right now. All from some, if I'll have to show you guys on Wednesday what I'm talking about because you won't believe it either. You will not believe it. It's insane. And they actually created it out of thin air because they were working on this little project I was working on all by themselves. They actually, even speaking of a game EV plays, they actually created a game for me. I was like, this can't be real right now. That's when AI sold me. I was like, you guys better get with AI. Whether you want to be the pay, quite frankly, you should pay. The pay version is way better because you won't get timed out. You're working on a better code, better higher, I don't higher tier of the AI. It operates differently when you pay. So that is a thing, and it gets more and more powerful every month, every year as we go. So these things can produce books, gaming, video game is what it produced for me. 3 book series. Little did I know though at the time that if I keep adding, like right now, if I added all 7,200 on top of the about 5, that'd be another 22,000. That's going to make another book. And that book means it's an intellectual property. That means it can be sold. That means it can be read on these platforms such as Amazon, right? Ebooks. That means it also can be turned into, if I paid for AI, which I probably am going to do, but not for this project because I want to brag. But for the books, I am going to turn it into a movie using AI because we have those capabilities now. Because I'll just load up the feed and say, hey, we're making a movie, just like it told me. It's going to be a trilogy movie. I'll just load it up. Let's go with the first one. And it even gave me the names for the movies. The first 2 is actually going to be back-to-back movies. It said the third one is going to be a prequel. The fourth one is going to be the final. It already lined it up for me. Told me exactly. I was like, this can't be real right now. And I didn't have to do nothing other than when I was doing my project and it came up suggesting this stuff on its own, and it was up to me to go down the path. I could have just blown it off. But again, I had free time, so I said, let me go and explore this. And that's what we have going on right now. Nobody can stop you. You can't be stopped. And if you have money to pay for AI, you can produce film. You can produce everything right now with AI for 30, 40 bucks. And like EV Place said, 20 bucks. I don't know. Again, I haven't paid for anything. I kind of have Copilot, but that's only because I pay for Microsoft. But I still got timed out because I was using Copilot today. And they actually, I think it's every Friday, I believe it's one of these is every Friday. I think it was Copilot. So that means since I got timed out today, that means I think I can't use it, the Copilot, until Friday. But Copilot is different. You can use the chat room for free and it still gives you AI information. And you can use that all day and all night. But as long as you're working on that task section, you have apparently some limit. So anyhow, I'm thinking I'm on a pay thing because I pay them. And I mean, I pay them like 100 and something a year. I should have free Copilot. I got to go look into that. But the point is, I don't have free because I timed out. And I barely used it today. Because I was using actually Gemini. Well, I don't know if I should call it Gemini because it says google.com. It doesn't say Gemini.google or whatever that. There's 2 different ones. One time I saw Gemini.google or something, but every time I use it, it's google.com. And then some other, characters. So once again, these are assets that these guys are accumulating. When you're here's what I'm fearful of. When you're doing AI and you're giving it information like what I'm doing right now, how do I know that they're not sending that information to somebody? That's the thing that I fear about by using these things. It's like somebody could be listening and saying, oh, send us some great ideas, right? That's what I'm worried about. But we're still going to kick their ass. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm out. I'm having a lot of fun this week. Working with an SSN Nation member that's top dog in his field that he's shown so far. I'm pretty sure he's top dog because he's saying all the right. You know when you do business, and if you can tell by language that people say and things how they operate, you can tell they're not fumbling about trying to figure things out, and they're making decisions based on what should be done. If you know a little bit, right? Like I know a little bit, not a lot, but just the fact that the person says, "Oh, here's what I worked on," and by the way, speaking of IPs, you know your work product, just so you guys know, you want copyrights, you want trademarks, you want some IPs, your work product on how you do something, you know the notes, you need to write them down. You need work product to show that you actually did it. You just don't show up at the copyright office and be like, hey man, I want to copyright this. You want to show the work. So then you also protect that again, where this ain't holding, but if you want a holding company, fine. But if you want your IPs to hold up, you don't want somebody going, oh yeah, I did it. It's kind of like my thing, yada, yada. You want to show your work product. And so what I liked and appreciated was one of the baddest programmers sent me something and was like, okay, man, this is what we worked on. I was like, oh, okay. Okay. He knows, yeah, exactly. This is what you have to do. You want to protect your IP, you got to show you did it. Because somebody always comes knocking at the door acting like they did it, trying to take credit. Especially once they find out certain things, now you're vulnerable because they're going, well, I can actually say I did it. I can actually sue them and said I did it to make it look like I did it. So you better have your work product. Notes, dated, something that backs it up with you did it. Nobody else. That's another little key right there in case you guys want to make sure you're locking everything down. You just don't throw away your work product and go, oh yeah, that. No, you keep it. Just like right now, I'm working on this project. I'm old school. I printed out work product of when I started to where I'm going to where I edited to where I changed. I actually keep with me every time I write something to change, I actually send it. So that way you can see, oh no, we changed up right here. You can't tell me somebody else did this because here it is. It's tracked. It's the time stamped and everything. So all these things, I'm telling you, this is how you play with the big boys. Because they are notorious for trying to take your stuff and act like it's their stuff. Especially when you're kicking their ass. Just saying. Notice I'm using the word kicking their ass. I'm very confident I'm going to be kicking their ass. With the help of one of the baddest programmers on the planet thus far that I've ran into in a long time. So he's worthy. I'm just going to say that. And it's even better he's an SSN Nation member too. That's even better. That's the creme de la creme, quite frankly. Ordinary citizens being able to take on the big dogs. Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. You have a holding company, you build an empire. You have something that gets intellectual properties and from many different sources. Do you understand the value of your company exponentially if you have all these assets? Each time you get an asset, it builds up the value of the company. And when you have intellectual properties, the values of companies are not $100. They're not $1,000. They're not 10,000. They're not 100,000. They're not 200,000. They're not a million. Once you have assets that can be used on, let's say, 10 different ways to bring money in the door just by holding these assets. That's why when I said, let me check out this company, that's a subsidiary of Fox. How much is it worth? And it says $2.5 to $3 billion. They started about 7 years ago. And in those 7 years, they got assets. That's why that company's worth, we'll call it 3 billion. Their holding company also is worth billions. Both of them are holding IP and assets in a different way. And that is what you want to do. Because what's going to happen in the next 2 years, 3 years, is if you're not holding some ownership items, you're going to be holding a bag of sand. All right? Because you're not going to be able to collect. You don't have any infrastructure to be able to manufacture any income if you don't have a job, if you don't know how to do business a different way. All that's going to come to a head. So this is one of the reasons why I'm so giddy about this, that this came along, all by accident. Because I wanted to do a live music competition show. So that's what I was working on initially. But then it morphed into, you know what? Why would I want to do this? I need a holding company because it's a little high risk business. So I need to separate where the money's going to flow to. They're going to own it, do all that. Holding company. Problem. But then as I got into it, I was like, well, if it's going to be this, then I'm going to act just like Simon Cowell. I'm going to act like I have a record label. I'm going to take part of the ownership of stuff or ownership of the show. Why am I going to release that? I'm not. That's an IP. Every episode, just like every live stream, is an IP. But I don't own this because YouTube. I'm on YouTube. They own this. They send me kibbles and bits. And that's what I get for 5-6 years, kibbles and bits. You guys would think you're like, Eric, you get thousands or twos or 15. No. Try like $50 a month. Try that. Try $20 a month. And they don't send that to you because you have to have $100 threshold. All right? Just saying. But that's the point. They're taking like, what is it, 30 or 40%? I don't even know because I don't get paid enough to know. It's either 30 or 40%. So you get 60 or 70%. And it's based on ad revenue. So if you guys are seeing ads and you click them, you don't get paid. Or I don't get paid. But if you watch it, then the person's YouTube channel, they get whatever the CPM is for it. Cost per mil. Basically cost per 1,000 people. Financial, stocks, credit, $15 to $25, $30 CPM. Skits, comedies, things like that, maybe $5. Different levels because, that's not really business related or it's just fun and games. But the point is that ad revenue that they're getting, they don't have to work for it. Once they have an ad, they just load it up. The ads play on auto. People pay for the ads up front. It's a win-win scenario for them. So again, that's an IP. That's intellectual properties. That's revenue coming in while you sleep. They just provide the service by allowing us to load it up. And now they have all of your information in mind, your tendencies on what you want to watch. So now with that packaged up, they get to go around to advertising and say, hey, look, on this guy's channel, and by the way, we're not going to charge you $5. We're going to charge you $30 CPM. Just saying. They get to dictate. You guys understand that's intellectual property. That's worth a lot of money. All right. I said it twice. So I'm going to go out of here now. Thank you so much for being here. And once again, just make sure, no matter what you do out here, just try to be the best in the elite and be the top dogs. Even though you reach for the stars, you might not get there. But at least you're trying to reach for the stars. And if you fall short, you still are going to get there. And that's how you have to operate. But make sure, no matter what in this day and age, that your legal setup is straight on point. Because that's where the failure points are, is your legal setup. There's nothing else. If you get sued, it's no big deal. You live in the litigious United States of America. What you care about is you want to be able to protect yourself, your liability, and your corporation's liability. Everything else you can deal with. But if those are gone, that changes your life. So just keep that in mind. Hopefully I talked to you guys enough. If you have any questions down below in the chat boxes, you guys can always ask them. Let me know what you guys are thinking. All right? Let me know how I did on this. If you guys understood what I was saying, maybe some of you did, some of you didn't, but hopefully I explained it kind of clear. I didn't say exactly, well, yeah, I did kind of say exactly what to do, but I said it in a different way than a lawyer would say it or anybody else would say it, because I want you guys to understand it's just basically an LLC, and another LLC could be holding the intellectual properties, and the operating company is at risk because they're the public facing company. So you don't want them holding anything. You want to park this stuff somewhere else. So that literally is what a holding company is. Stuff is parked that's valuable there where they don't interact with the public. So you're not getting sued. It's passive. Or you're doing business because you don't really want it passive either. You want to do business. Your holding company wants to do agreements, so you're doing business. You don't want to say, I just have a holding company, they're holding the IPs. No, no, no. You want that company that's holding the IPs to be licensing, to lease, to sell. You need to do something. So then it's generating revenue from whether it's your company or any other company. It's a business. Act like it. And that protects you. And you do not commingle funds. Simple. All right? And by the way, hold on, let me get something else straight. Whatever you do, if you have multiple companies, you better have different banks. Do not be at the same, each company cannot be at the same bank. Two companies you own should not be at the same bank. All right? That is rules that it'll do you well just to, you can do it, but I would not advise. So if you have 6, 7, 8, you better do what the big boys do. They go different bank facilities, because the level of impropriety, just a little bit of it could crack your corporate veil. So just keep in mind, these are very, very serious points. All right? Because the government themselves, they love jacking people on commingling money. And you would be innocent. You're thinking, oh, I have my money at the bank. So you go down, take out money at the bank for business A. But you're at the same bank. So you say, oh, yeah, let me take out some money from business B. What do? You keeping them separate envelopes? I hope so. Or not. Or are you keeping them the same in a separate envelope, but now the government says, oh no, that was just pretend. We don't know that you kept them in separate envelopes. We're going to try and charge you on commingling of funds, trying to fine you or trying to throw you in jail, trying to pierce the corporate veil. Because now you're fraudulently doing something. Now we can take your assets. Fraud. Okay? So see, that's why you don't even want to accidentally be at the same bank. Because you might be on the phone talking, grab some money, put it together, then you're like, oh man, oh yeah, here's my receipt, I got this. But now they come in, they're like, hey, these guys have 2 accounts at this bank? Yep. Have they ever withdrawn at the same time? Yep. You don't know where you live, ladies and gentlemen. I do. So protect yourself out here. Do not keep if you have 10 companies, 10 different banks. That's it. Standard rule. This is the SS Nation rules. I'm just saying. All right, let's go. Just remember one thing. Share the videos and please like, subscribe, and click the bell below so you get the latest updates. And I see you, Monterey men. Thank you for being in the house. Hopefully you liked what I was talking about. Make sure you guys smash the like button, please. As I've already said, please like, subscribe, and click the bell below so you get the latest updates. I'll say it again. make sure you share the videos, because you never know who needs this information. There might be somebody right now, your friends, your loved ones, your family, that's putting together corporations, trying to figure out what to do. Operating companies always at risk. Assets in a holding company or assets in another entity. It doesn't even, but it'll still function as a holding company because you're licensing to your own company, intercompany agreement, and marketing. You're saying, hey, I get 10% of whatever comes in because I'm licensing this to you to allow you to use it. Simple. Above board. But you can't do 2%. You can't do $1. You can't do $50 for the year. You got to make it like the business has the profit, right? That's how you have to operate, okay? No sweetheart deals. Just saying. I said it 4 times tonight. So again, 2 hours, 15, 16 minutes in. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here once again, listening to me. Thank you so much, and show some love. If you'd like to become a member of the channel, please subscribe. And membership with the icon next to his name, like EV Place. That means you pay a little bit of money to be a member of the channel. That'd be awfully nice. We're about to get hard into this. We're going to go hard in the paint, because as I keep building and doing what we're doing, I'm going through processes because I have to do trademarks, right? So nobody can use the name. That's another one of the top dog tricks. They try to say, oh, you're using one of our names, it's close to our name, so that's how they can stifle you. So you want to make sure that you've got clearance. Luckily, you have AI. Luckily, you can go to USPTO and .com and go check out, search for the name. The key is you don't want to be close to somebody else's name, and you damn sure don't want to be close to somebody else's name and be in the same class, because that's a wrap. They're going to sue you. The same class means if I'm doing whatever business I'm doing, if the other company's doing a similar business, that means we're in the same class. And if we have nearly the same name, even if there's a letter or two off, phonetically it can sound the same, you're going to get rejected. You're going to waste about $350. That's all I'm saying. Why are you going to waste when you don't have to? There's so many different names you can pick. Figure out something, all right? Those are little keys. Don't waste your time with saying, well, I like it, I love it, and this and that. And yeah, it's different. You can rationalize. But if it's close, these guys are going to defend their trademarks. They're going to defend copyrights. That's all going to be defendable. So you don't want to be anywhere near these guys. It costs a lot of money trying to cease and desist. You better cease real fast. You don't want to be in a court of law, because they're going to win. All right? Just like if you own a corporation or company and you want to, and a person tries to use something similar to your name, you got to defend it. You got to make sure hey, you're infringing, man. People are going to be confused. You're going to be taking money out of my pocket. We can't have that. So if you're a business person, you can't have that. That's how it is. That's why you have trademarks. That's why you copyright. So you hold things. So nobody else can do anything. And you can go after them. And that's why you have patents. Because I got a patent that I'm going to be doing. And it's going to make a lot of people mad, because while I'm kicking their ass, they're going to try and use my technology. And they're not going to be able to use it. And that means they can't catch up. I mean, they'll figure out a way, but I don't really care. I'm already going to be off to the races. First mover advantage helps. So keep these things in mind as you're forming whatever you're going to form out here. This is going to be a monster corporation. You create monster corporations by having values in 3, 4 different places. You have 2 or 3 companies generating money. You have licensing deal, leasing deals, subleasing deals, non-exclusive, exclusive deals with these companies and others, because you're doing business. That's the essence. And you have all of your companies you control making money. Then all of a sudden somebody knocks on the door to the holding company and says, hey, man, we like what you're doing up here. That creates a higher value. Just like real estate. If I own a house. I bought a house for $1 million. But I can go down and buy a fourplex for $600,000. Some people would say, well, that's great, Eric. Your house is worth $1 million. It went up in value to 110, whatever. But see, here's the thing. I bought the $600,000 house. I mean, a fourplex. So the average is $1,500 per month. So now somebody's paying $1,500 per month. Let's just keep it simple. It's different. It's a little bit more complicated, but let's just say it's that. But now we have the epidemic, pandemic, and all of a sudden property is at an all-time high. Rent goes up 20-30%. So instead of 1,500, it's 1,800 in 2022. In 2023, instead of 1,800, it's 2,300. All of a sudden, 15 times 4 is 6,000 a month. But instead of 6,000 a month, now all of a sudden I'm at 8,500 a month. That 8,500 a month comes out to $100,000 a year. Guess what? My value on that $600,000 now equals almost the value of the 1 million. And guess what else? It's recurring. I go to sleep at night. The house, you have to work to pay for the house. But yet now I have the same value as you and on a bullet to rise because inflation goes up. So the following year, instead of 2,300, I'm charging somebody 2,500. Actually, not that high, but $50 or $75 more due to inflation. So that is how you create value because it's an asset. And now it goes up in value as there's inflation, as you improve it, as you charge more, all of it comes hand in hand. It's the same way with corporations. You own more, the value of your holding company, your whole organization increases. And the more value that you can increase on that product, the more money you can resell it for. And by the way, I'm going to tell you right now, what I am very, very happy, and you're going to hear words coming out of my mouth of confidence because nobody can stop us. And the only people that can stop us is us. And we also have intellectual properties, trademarks, and everything else. And that all creates value. And we have some things here that's going to turn into, it doesn't have to be big, 10,000 from one company, 20,000 from another, 40,000, 50,000 from another. It's the same principles of me owning a fourplex because I always do 10x. And it's not Grant Cardone. I've always done this for 40 years. Whatever I have at a value of, I always 10 times it regardless, just to get a ballpark of what I think. So if I collect $100,000, automatically it's worth $1 million. Now, the question turns out to be if I sell it, what's the equation on the efficiency? How much time, energy, and effort did it take us to earn the 100,000? If it's really just some software and things moving around, the value's even more because now you don't need employees. You guys getting this? So now if you have software operating where you go, well, we made $100,000, but we only had to pay somebody 20 G's. In fact, we didn't have to pay anybody. Now it's worth a whole lot more money because whoever takes it over is on almost autopilot. Now all of a sudden that's worth even more than 1 mil. In my brain, I go, well, I got to sell this for 1.7 because it's on autopilot. And then they're going to give me some crazy stuff. They'll say, well, Eric, what's the, what do they like to use? Oh, I can't remember the name of it right now. I call it profit. They want to use the other term. What do they call these things? It drives me crazy. Try to make it seem like they know more than other people, but the profit's still the profit. And so those type of things is what matters. They go, oh, it only has a 3%. What do you call them things? I can't remember. Because I'm from Cali, and that's what they use in Cali. It's that same crazy. And so they say, well, it's only worth 3% in this industry. So I can only pay this much. And I'm like, I don't really care what it's worth because I don't have to sell. I'm like, I want 1.7. I don't really care what you say. Just take it or leave it. I, I don't have to sell. It's on autopilot, pretty much. I'm like, why do I care if I still collect 100 G's, 120 G's a year while I'm sleeping? So that's what you want to build up, ladies and gentlemen. If you can. If you can make an ecosystem. If you can't make an ecosystem, hit me up. I'll figure out an ecosystem for you. This is one of my specialties. That's why I like doing something that I love, because I get to create an ecosystem by default. Because then I realize there's offshoots, so why should I give the money to somebody else when I can create the company that does it and give the money to the company that I own and create value? And then that company, since we're giving that company money, that company has a profit coming in, and now they get to operate and get additional business that has nothing to do with us. Now that creates value for that business, and the whole corporate structure increases in value. That's the why I always say the word ecosystem. And it's funny. Somebody told me, I was talking to a friend of mine. I don't even remember who it was. But anyhow, my friend was talking. Oh, it was one of my friends, Drake Bake. He's doing a car business. He's doing car repair business. He's doing where you go to the dealer auction. Then he wants to sell it on his lot. So I said, that's pretty good so far. But I said, are you going to have the full ecosystem though? Because here's the first thing. I said, somebody comes in, they want to buy your car. You want to stay within a perfect level, like let's say $2,500, $3,500. The person comes in because it's hard times, and they say, hey man, I only have $1,500, $1,700. So I was telling them, I said, because I used to do these things, I said, hey man, it's an ecosystem. Are you going to let a person that has $1,700 walk? Or are you going to sell them the car? Now he's thinking I'm going to let them walk. I said, why? I said, because I'm going to create the paper. So I'm going to say, oh, don't worry. You got $1,700? I'll take that. You want to buy this $3,400 ride? I'll take that. You got to come over here and sign this piece of paper, a contract, where you're going to pay me X amount of dollars per month. You can pay me here, but you're probably going to have to pay with the finance company, because I'm going to take these pieces of paper that I accumulate, which is assets, because they owe me another $1,700 at 15% for the next year and a half. So I go down to the finance company and I say, hey man, I got like 20 of these. And they say, well, okay, that's worth 20 times 1,700. They start going, that's worth 300 and some odd $1,000. I say, you're right. So how much are you going to give me for the paper? And they start collecting the money. He catches on. And he says, I'm going to start a finance company. It's not that easy, but he's going to try it. It might work. Fine. But he says, I said, exactly. Now you're getting the point. You have an ecosystem. So now I can't sell a car to somebody for 34, but they'll finance it because they have half of the money. Then I get 10 or 20 of these things. Now I got 300 and some odd $1,000. The car's off my lot. I got the down payment. Now I go see the finance guy and he says, Eric, I'll give you 50%, 40% of the contract. Fine. Give me 170 G's. Thank you. I don't have to earn it. I don't have to sweat with it. I don't have to do anything with it. So he starts thinking that's an ecosystem. I said, exactly, it's an ecosystem. So then he says, I got the tow truck. I said, you got the ecosystem then. Got the repair spot. Ecosystem. You create an ecosystem where people are going to be you're going to be generating revenue off several different things that's within what you do. And anytime you can keep adding the circle, Like he added, when I started saying, he says, yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to give them a warranty. But the warranty says every 3,000 miles, you got to come see me. Which now he has an auto repair spot. So now he knows what the mileage is. He knows what the upkeep of the vehicle is in case the people default and in case he wants to buy it back or they want to trade it in. He has the history information. I said, yes, yes, this is what you got it. So now what's the next lever on the ecosystem? And he named something else, which I can't remember. But he set up the whole ecosystem. And he has customer information, key, and knows the status of his own vehicles and knows the status of that vehicle. That goes a long way and now has them in there for repair because it's going to cost. And now you can check it out just like a car dealership, right? Hey, you have a little problem. You might want to have this fixed. It's going to cost you an extra $150, $200. You want to get it done now. No sweat if they don't. You've already gotten your money from the time you sold it. And then some. So either way, you win. So keep that in mind and let's roll out of here. I'll see you guys on Wednesday night, I hope. We'll be talking some more business. We'll be talking some more big dog stuff, all right? So don't worry. Since I'm doing some big dog stuff, I got to talk about big dog stuff. I want to bring you guys along for the ride. That's why you need your pen, pad, and paper. And just make sure, no matter what you do out here, it's treacherous. There's a lot of people out here hurting, whether it's mentally, physically, and they are going through a lot. Losing jobs, getting laid off. Just, you never know what somebody's going through. So just make sure, no matter what, you stay safe, keep your family safe, and pay attention to your surroundings. But above all else, make sure, as times get hard or not, you keep your head up. Keep moving. And I'm out.